between married guys and single, if single guys are having trouble, now amplify that because you do have a wife and you have children to take care of. And it's not just about the money. It's making sure that you're going to receive that long-term care for the rest of your life through the VA. Because if you have something wrong with you and it happened to you while you were in, you want to make, with this back condition I have, like I want to make sure I'm going to be able to go see the acupuncturist for the rest of my life, or go see a chiropractor. If it's starting to get bad, I shouldn't have to pay out of pocket.
Exactly.
And it's a fracture system, but we're working to get better. And then you also talked about the struggle with dealing with your command, and just the military has its problems as well, especially with military or medical care as well. And it's just tough. There's a lot of us have a lot of issues, and there's also it's important to try and filter out those who are trying to either, one, take advantage of it, or two, there's of course there's people who exaggerate and things of that nature. So there has to be a process in place, and it obviously can't be just like an application. There has to be a thorough process. I don't think it's working. Whatever they got right now, I don't think it's working in the
Yeah.
military, outside the military, and I think that's why we see a lot of people struggle. And that's kind of where I'd like to move this conversation to, because you've been very, very vocal about
Yeah.
what you've been going through, and have you actually had a struggle with something that's completely overtaking the country, and that's being unfortunately addicted to opioids. And
Yeah.
with my personal experience, to be completely honest, like I have an addictive personality. I've had to quit drinking the past couple months, and I was getting to a bad spot. But anytime I had pills, I loved them. I mean, to
Yeah.
be completely honest, like I love them. They're scientifically and engineered to be that way.
Yeah.
It's for a purpose, and that purpose can be good for somebody with a significant energy or injury, to get them through those couple weeks of recovery and that intense recovery. But there's chemical hooks that
Oh,
make
yeah.
it unbelievable. But I mean, I like for you to kind of share your story, take as much time as you'd like, because I think a lot of people, not just veterans, there's a lot of people who are struggling with this particular type of addiction, and it's ruthless, it's savage, and it destroys people. And it's something you've been able to conquer and be without for what, 32 days now?
32 days today.
32 days, man.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you. I love it, and you're getting so much support, dude. And I love it. I love you doing your little videos, just having your one-on-one with everybody who's behind you, and it's awesome. That's why I reached out, and I'm jazzed up. I'm glad to see Rose kicking ass, and like I want to get your story out, and that's why we're doing this, because I think you can inspire a lot of people. But I'd love for you to just take your time, dude. There's you can talk as long as you want about this, because I know you have a lot of valuable information.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And I agree entirely with everything you just said. It is a problem across country. It's so easy to get hooked onto these medications, and you don't even realize it. Like your body just kind of needs it, and all of a sudden you're stuck. And like when you're without it, like what do? You start getting really sick, and then it eventually sweats out, but at the same time, it sucks. It started well, about 3 years ago when I had my first shoulder surgery. Um, I have a very high tolerance to pain medications, so hydrocodone, the Percocets, all that stuff, it doesn't really work on me. So I needed a heavier dose of oxycodone in order to actually feel pain relief. So they originally prescribed me, like it was 5 milligrams, 5 and 325 of hydrocodone, and I just had a rotator cuff repair. And for anyone who's ever had a rotator cuff repair, they know that, I mean, that sucks. Like
Mm.
it hurts tremendously, and I'd take like 3 or 4 of these pills, and I wouldn't feel a damn thing. So I called my doctor, and I was like, listen, I need something way stronger. Like, so I ended up getting 30 milligram pills of oxycodone that I had to take one every 6 hours or something like that. And that's a heavy dose. Like, that's a heavy immediate relief dose of
Mm.
painkiller. Um, then I had 2 more surgeries after that, where they moved my bicep down into my arm and screwed it in. They also cut the clavicle or my collarbone, so it's not attached anymore and it can move around freely. And very painful surgeries. Well, any surgery is painful. I
Yeah.
mean, any surgery sucks.
Yeah.
I can tell you, your shoulders, and my knee was my worst one. I'll get to that one though. That was later. So at this point, I had already had my hand done, which really wasn't too bad. The only thing I took was ibuprofen for that one. So the addiction hadn't really started. It started with those 3 shoulder surgeries because they were spread out months apart. So I needed the pain meds in between in order to get through to the next surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to the next surgery and you get that dose of painkillers. I remember getting 180 30 milligram oxycodones and being like, oh my God, like, that's a lot. But it was what my body needed. Eventually that stopped working. It didn't. It just, my body got used to it. That's because that's what happens with opioids. Your brain will build a tolerance to it, and so will your liver, and then it filters out faster, and then you don't feel it. So I was still taking these pain meds. That's when I flew down to San Diego, and that physician's assistant put an order in for me to go see a pain clinic, which I was terrified of because I've heard rumors about pain clinics, and it was exactly what I thought it would be. I flew back home to Utah. I went to my pain doctor, and unfortunately this pain doctor was one of the pain doctors who would just dope you up,
Mm-hmm.
not look for alternative options. We went to from oxycodone to Dilaudid, which is called hydromorphone. It's what they also use in sedation. Hydromorphone worked for a little bit, and then once I got used to that, we went to a drug called Opana, which is oxymorphone. It worked for a little while, a couple months. I had a couple months of relief, and then we went straight to morphine. So I take a little morphine pills, and then once I hit the max dose of the morphine, we had to move up again. So we actually moved up to fentanyl. So I had to wear these little patches, little fentanyl patches underneath my clothes, and it'd stick to my skin, and I'd have to put a piece of tape over it. And it was supposed to provide 3 days of relief, but the only thing it made me do is want to fall asleep, like, because fentanyl is very sedative.
Yeah.
It got rid of the pain, but at the same time, like, I'd sit on the couch and I have my, little baby crawling around and I fall asleep. Like, that can't happen,
Right.
So the last option was methadone, and methadone was the lowest dose that they could give me with the highest effect of relief for pain. So we started with 5 milligrams, and it was good. I felt good. I got used to the 5 milligrams, so we went to 7.5 milligrams 3 times a day. And then I got used to that, so we went to 10 milligrams 3 times a day. And then I kind of it would put me in a fog and made me really kind of jacked up. So we went back down to 7 milligrams 3 times a day. Now, that's not the only pill that I was taking, though, either. I was also taking a drug called Celebrex, which is supposed to help with your joints and swelling. It reduces swelling in your joints so they don't hurt as bad. I maxed that dose out, 200 milligrams twice a day. And I also take a drug called Lyrica, which is an amazing drug because it's helped with my PTSD. It's helped with pain, and it's a nerve pain medication. And it helps with a lot of things. So I actually am double the max dose of that every day. So I take it 3 times a day still. So all these pills I'm taking every day. Just like the picture I sent you right before. It's like, that's my life. Is I have pill boxes that are locked in cabinets and locked in lock boxes so my kids can't get them. And every morning I gotta sit down, and I gotta take 5 or 6, 7 pills, and then I have to eat. Otherwise, I'm gonna be unconscious by the time I get in the truck and drive to work. And it was a lot. I took 7.5 milligrams and all those other medications of methadone for 14 months. It wasn't until about 2 months ago. Oh, and mind you, by the way, not a single person knew that I was taking these medications.
Mm-hmm.
I hid it from everyone. I hid it from everyone in my community. I hid it from all my friends, all my family, everyone, because I was afraid that they'd look at me like I was a drug addict. Like, oh my God, you're taking methadone? Are you using heroin? No, methadone is a painkiller. Like, and 7.5 milligrams really isn't like that heavy of a dose. It's just enough to get rid of the pain. But methadone is a very tricky drug because its half-life ranges between 30 to 36 hours. So if you take one pill, that's in your system for almost 2 days, which sucks because when you're coming off of them, you have to titrate down very, very, very slowly in order to get off of them. But anyway, so 2 months ago, I told my wife that I did not want to be on painkillers for the rest of my life, and that I know that there's alternate means of getting this handled. So I fired my pain doctor because all he wanted to do was dope me up. Fired my pain doctor, and I went to a new one, and her name is Dr. Kirsten Baca, and she is phenomenal. She doesn't believe in pumping you full of drugs. She actually looks at the conversions of, how many milligrams of morphine you have in your system versus what you should have. And she showed me a chart from the CDC because, believe it or not, anytime an opioid is ever prescribed and given to somebody, the DEA and the CDC know about it, and they're tracking you. So they printed off a list of about 20 sheets, all opioids that I've been prescribed for 3 years. And it said on there the milligrams of morphine that I was taking a day versus what I should. And I was taking 220 milligrams of morphine per day with that medication, which is a very high dose. That's like the recommended dose by the CDC is 60 milligrams, just 60, and I was at 220, so it sucked. So we had been doing trials of these nerve ablations in my neck with my new pain doc, and essentially what a nerve ablation is they go in with a needle and they find the nerve that receives the pain, and then they shoot a really high frequency at it, and it burns it, and it separates itself. So it's essentially you're severing your nerves in your spine, so that way they don't receive that pain signal. It's incredibly painful, by the way, but it is incredibly worth it, because once you get through the procedure and then the pain afterwards, like it's already starting to take a benefit for me. My myofascial pain, all the pain that radiates down my back and everything in my shoulder, like all that stuff it's probably still there, but I can't feel it because there's no nerve to receive it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So she did both sides of my neck eight times. So there's 8 different spots in my neck that she burned, and we're gonna look into burning parts of my lower back, because you said slip discs. I have bulging discs in my back. Our bodies aren't meant to carry that much weight, and when you're sitting down in a truck and you have a flak jacket on and you're moving all around, you're running, you're doing all this, it's not good for your back. It's not good for your shoulders and your neck. And so anyway, before my doctor did the nerve ablations, I had an appointment with her for a medication review, and it was my nerve ablations were 3 weeks out. And she told me that she didn't want me titrating off of the methadone while I was doing the nerve ablations because it's going to hurt really bad. Mm-hmm. And I told her, well, then we'll hold off on the nerve ablations and let's start getting off this methadone now because I'm done with it. I'm through with opioids. I'm done with it. And I put my foot down. And she's like, well, if you want to do this, we can do this, but it's going to hurt. I was like, I'll handle it. And she kind of laughed, and the nurse in the room kind of laughed, and then she gave me a 4-month plan to titrate off of the methadone. And I said, no, that's too long. I'll be off methadone by the time I see you for my first nerve ablation. And she's like, that's 3 weeks away. And I was like, yep, I know. And I did it. And that was the first question she asked when I came in. She's like, when was the last time you took your methadone? I was like, yesterday. I am off it. And she was proud. She was surprised. I didn't realize what I was getting myself into, though, mm-hmm. Because I hadn't done my research on it. When you come off of opioids, long-term opioid use, you need to immediately start an antidepressant. Lexapro, Zoloft, or Prozac were the recommended ones. You need to immediately start it because when your long-term use of opioids, they get inside of your brain and they shut off all those dopamine receptors and they shut off those serotonin receptors, and they make you feel happy. Mm-hmm. It's the drug that makes you feel happy. Mm-hmm. I see you nod your head. It's exactly what it is. And
100%.
Yeah, I did not know that at the time. So not only was I sick as hell, I was depressed. Like to the point of where I thought I was going to end my life. Because I wanted to die. I was in so much pain. I couldn't stop crying. I was thinking about all the horrible memories that I've ever had, and I'm puking in the toilet all the time. It was a horrible couple weeks. And then I felt better. And I was like, okay, I got this. That should be it. That. I went through 2 weeks of hell. That's it. I went back to work for a week. I came in the Monday after that, sick again. I went through the whole thing again. And, something that my wife, actually, a lot of people on social media, I reached out on social media because I wanted people to hear this. Yeah. I'm not afraid to admit that I had an opioid addiction problem. It wasn't me in my mind thinking, oh, I need this pill, I need this pill, I need this pill. In my mind, I'm thinking, I'm getting this shit out. I'm done with it. And a lot of people commented and they were saying, oh, you have so much strength, you have so much strength. And I always responded with, I don't have strength. I'm weak as hell right now. I planted my feet in the ground, and it's people like you that are holding me up, and that's why I'm here. And something my wife had told me is that I'll always be with you, and I'm not leaving you. You're okay. We'll get through this. And she could have left. She very well could have. I was never abusive. I was never mad. I was never angry. I never yelled at my kids. We just told him Daddy was sick. That's it. And I cried a lot until I started taking Lexapro. And then I was up and moving. And I'm like, okay, I got this. Now I need to control the pain. So for day 30, I bought my wife and I necklaces that I'm wearing now, and it's 2 rings, and one of them says, "I will always be with you." Um, Hers is rose gold, and I got the black one because I'm cool.
Yeah.
But but that was our celebration for day 30 of being sober and off of methadone. That drug had dug itself so deep in my brain that pulling it out was a nightmare. And it's a night. If there is anyone that is listening to this, it's a nightmare and it's hell, and you will get through it. You just got to sack up and say, "I'm doing this. I'm sticking to it." Um, when I told my wife how serious I was about doing this, I actually handed her all of my firearms, and I said, "I'm gonna leave for an hour, lock them up, change the combination of the safe. I'll come back." And she did. And then I put 12 bottles of prescription opiates that I had in a box, and I went to the pharmacy, my pharmacist that I always go see, and I turned in all of them. Said, "I'm done with them. Don't want them. Take them." And he smiled at me, and he's like, "Dylan, in 10 years as a pharmacist, not a single person on opioids has ever done what you just did." And I was like, "Well, thanks."
Yeah.
Like, I was all emotional.
Yeah.
Because it messes with your head,
It
man.
does.
It messes so much with your head. Even now, like, I still take the antidepressants, and
Yeah.
I'm on a very strong central nervous suppressor, so that way those nerves aren't firing. And, I've found pain relief in different ways, like stretching, and yoga is
Yeah.
actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
Um, Aromatherapy, dry needling procedures, physical therapy, all this other stuff. Um, there's ways around it.
It's not
It's
easy.
just,
It's not
it's
easy.
just, well, the hardest part is just taking that first step. It's that first step saying to yourself, "I'm gonna do this." I didn't get off of the opiates for myself. I got off the opiates for my family, because my biological father is, I don't even know if he's alive. The dude's probably dead, to be honest, but he was addicted to heroin his whole life. And I'm not him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not that man that's not going to be there to walk the kid down the aisle. Like, I'll find ways around this pain and I'll beat it. Worst is over already. I mean, I don't think I could puke any more than I
Yeah, I believe it.
I'm pretty sure I got sick more times off this than I did all 4 years in suicide.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Dude, I believe it.
yeah.
But I mean, that's an incredible story. And you hear those inspiring stories all the time. It's like, yeah, I boxed everything up and took it to the pharmacist, and you did all that. And that's amazing. And like, two really important things I'd like to pull out of that is the fact that you warned anybody who may see this one day, that if you're going to go through this, to be aware that you're going to change, because you said it, like, for 3 years. It doesn't take 3 years. It can take any duration, a small duration of time,
10
of you,
days.
yeah, of
10 days, that's
just
it.
taking those pills, and it chemically changes you as a human being inside. And when you remove that, and it's just like anything else, anybody who drinks too much caffeine, or eats too much sugar, or too many carbs, or has a drinking problem like I did, or you cut off the cigarettes. I mean, as soon as you remove that from your body's going to go into a panic mode. I'm sure you've heard the research, or done the research, and spoken to this with your doctors,
Yeah.
and it's all up here. I mean, this thing is so powerful, and I don't think people really realize that. um,
I'm still here.
yeah, no, you're good.
I'm
You're good.
grabbing a dip.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, no, you're good, dude. But as soon as you remove that from your body, it completely changes you, and it's hard for people, and not everybody, because it's very easy for people on the outside to look in and say, oh, well, And I hear it all the time. It's like, well, you got yourself into it. It's easy. You shouldn't do that. You should be able to get off of it. Just toughen up. But there's also, my side of that. I used to think that, but I decided no painkillers, nothing like that. I knew for a fact I'd start using them and abusing them, but it didn't help because I started self-medicating with alcohol. Started pounding a half a fifth a night, and that quickly got turned even worse. And it's a cycle, it's a pattern, it's a habit. And as soon as you try to break those things, it's incredibly difficult, and it sucks. Like you said, it really sucks, and you have to change your mind and how you process things. And like for the latter of this conversation, I'd really like to talk about like that mindset, because I
Yeah.
have this back pain, and I've been going through cognitive therapy with mental health, and
Hmm.
going through a whole ton of treatments with acupuncture, chiropractor, physical therapy, like whatever's available. I'm trying to do because I don't have to medicate, and that's something I've had to completely retrain my mind in the past couple months. Instead of when I feel pain, I take a substance. It's when I feel pain, what activity should I start doing right now to start relieving that pain? Don't immediately turn to substance. Sometimes it's absolutely required, especially with like mental health. And if something's misfiring and you see a doctor, and you go through your plan, you follow this plan, then absolutely it's necessary to receive that medication. But that medication is actually benefiting you.
Yeah.
Whereas those painkillers, all they do is suppress a pain for a minute amount of time, but the amount of damage it's doing to you. And same thing with alcohol. It's like the amount of damage it was doing to me. I was
Yeah.
getting no benefit whatsoever, and it was going to kill me. And it's taking a lot of lives right now as we speak. But uh, basically, yeah, I'd like to like. I know you've been through it. I know you've seen mental health professionals, but what's that mindset part? That's the biggest part, is that mindset.
Yeah.
How do you shift from, oh God, I'm starting to feel this pain. I don't feel like getting up. It's like I have all these things to do, and like what does my family think of me? What do other people think of me? It's like, I'm not weak. I have this condition. It sucks. It's a mother to get through, but I'm still who I am. And how do you immediately, because um, one more thing, and I promise I'll like get into
No,
this, but
no. Continue. Yeah.
it's another thing is like as soon as you start bringing once your mindset's in that bottom pit of I can't get better, the pain's not getting better, I'm gonna live like this for the rest of my life, I'm not gonna be able to do the things I love, not be able to enjoy the people that I love. Once you get in that mindset, that's really hard to get out too.
Yeah.
And then once you get in that pattern and that cycle, and depression sets in, and then obviously external factors with PTSD, like you mentioned, for military veterans and law enforcement and first responders. So those guys see trauma every single day as well, and it's a vicious cycle. And I think not enough people, and the whole big picture of this and what I'm trying to do is to start sitting people down, even if it's Roe, who we bullshitted a few times, had some good conversation, but
Yeah.
otherwise, it was Sergeant Rowe, and then Anderson, and you went off to do your thing, I went off to do my thing, but we were able to stay connected through Facebook, see what was going on. And then once you decided to show everybody what you've been going through, and what the challenge you were facing and how you were facing it, that's amazing. But I just lost my train of thought. But
No, no. I understand entirely what you're saying. It's first off, I commend you for dropping the alcohol. Alcohol is a depressant, and if you are experiencing any sort of mental health problem, or if you don't, even if you don't think you are, if you've been through some sort of trauma, you have. And I went through a therapy, a very invasive therapy called cognitive processing therapy, and it's what they use to treat PTSD. And essentially, what they do is it's a 12-week program, and you see this psychologist every week, and you have like a bunch of worksheets that you do to try to figure out your life and everything. And it was really hard, but the one rule was you can't drink. So that's why I stopped drinking, is because I was going through this therapy. And then when I realized, like, holy crap, like I'm not as depressed as I thought I was. it was the alcohol that was really, it was numbing the pain. That's all it was. Alcohol can numb your pain. And, unfortunately, I've had some really horrible experiences with alcohol. Even in my childhood, really horrible experiences. And I think alcohol is far more dangerous than marijuana. I mean,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, and especially opioids. But I commend you because if I took methadone every single day for 14 months and I stopped, I would get sick. If you drank a fifth of vodka every single day for 14 months and you stopped, you would die.
Yeah.
That's how bad alcohol is. It's the same thing as benzodiazepines. Benzodiazepine drugs are great. They're very effective. I'm on Klonopin, and it, numbs my nerves so that way they don't fire all the time and lock up muscles. And then, something funny that happened on the couch the other day. I'm sitting there eating my Honey Nut Cheerios, watching Daredevil, and my sciatic nerve decided it wanted to spaz out, and it jolted me, and I spilled Cheerios and milk all over my body.
Yeah.
And my wife was dying, and she was dying, and I'm like sitting there covered in cold milk. I was like, just help me up, please, come on. And she's like, no, you get up yourself. And it was so funny. But alcohol itself is a killer. It will kill you, and your body gets so immune to it so quick that you can drink and drink and drink and drink, and it's so easy to get.
Yeah.
Go to the store and buy some beer or get a bottle of liquor. You're good to go. So I wanted to commend you for that because that is way hard. Like,
No, it's
way hard.
tough.
If I would have known that you were going through that, I would have been there for you, man.
No, it's all good, man. And I mean, and that's the thing is like we all have personal struggles. We all, I mean, it can be, and that's why I don't like doing is trying to put it up on a scale. Everybody's different. Everybody, you brought up trauma. Everybody experiences trauma different. And that's something my last guest just said, Donnie. He was like, somebody, you can take three people, put them through the exact same situation, and they're all going to come out differently.
Yeah.
And it's important to acknowledge that and be aware of that. And we come from the Marine Corps infantry background, and you don't give a fuck. You're hot shit. Nothing can touch you. But there's also the conversation I don't think we're having is like if you want to be the most lethal warrior out there, like this has to be sharp too. If things are up here that's preventing you from being able to perform, and it all routes up to here. It's all up here. You got to get this in the right place to make sure you can perform your duties. And I think that's where we're starting to merge the conversation and be a little bit more honest with each other, be more honest with myself about my issues and my struggles. And it should be 100% okay for me to, pour that out. And, I did it. I did the Facebook streams and a couple posts, and I was really emotional for a while. I was really up and down. So I was going through those changes, and it's out there. It's already on my Facebook, and some of it I'm kind of embarrassed about, but some of it, and it is what it is. Like I got so much feedback and so much help, and a lot of people who maybe I spoke a few words with, but these guys are like the titans of like 1-7. Guys reached out to me. Those guys came and was like, hey man, if you ever need to talk, come talk to me. And it's like that was so humbling. Like wow, like that was also you mentioned it to me. It's like you don't want people to see you a different way, and that's real. And I'm trying to break that because you've gotten an overwhelming amount of support, and that's awesome. And that's what I think individuals who are going through these kind of processes kind of need. And it's okay, if you're struggling, put yourself out there a little bit if you'd like, or just go reach to somebody. And I think that's probably another issue is getting people to open up, but it's removing that stigma because there's nothing wrong with just going through something. It's life. We all do it, and we all need to get through it, and we can all use each other and help each other out. And with our community, our veteran community, I mean, you see examples of overwhelming support all the time, and I want to continue that, and I want to do my own version of that. That's why this website's up. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm reaching out to Marines I serve with to get their stories out. And you have an incredible story, and I'd like to try to capstone this, I mean, it's been great. I know you and I could probably sit down for hours, but I want to do this. I want to do this again. And after we stop recording, I want to talk to you about something. But
Yeah,
one of the most important things is family. And you've been very vocal about how your wife and your children are like, that's your core, that's your support, and that's what keeps you going. That's eventually that's what was my wake up call. Is I was in my mind, I was too worried, I guess, too worried about myself, and like I wasn't enjoying life anymore. And I started, the reason I got out of the Marine Corps is I wanted to see my daughter grow up. Like
right.
that last deployment I left when she was 3 months old, and it crushed me, dude. It just destroyed me. And I tried to hide it as best I could, try to brush it off. But when as soon as we got back, I got to see her. She was 9 months old at that point, like completely different, baby at that point. And she didn't know who I was. She cried when she saw me, and that like destroyed me. And that's
Hmm.
when the drinking started getting bad. Like
Yeah,
that's when I started just going through fits every single day. And we decided to live time apart. I know you had to do that as well. Being a bachelor marine, just to start saving money because I knew we were going to be buying a house. But there's a couple months of that stint of, they're away at home. I'm not with my daughter. I was just
hmm,
drinking myself away. So I mean that was my final decision. But when I got out, the drinking continued. I started getting the time with my daughter, but I wasn't. I was too focused on, my job sucks, trying to go to school, can't get a degree. It's gonna take forever. I'm dealing with this back pain. I'm getting out of shape. I'm not eating right. I'm drinking myself to death. And I got to this point where I just could not bring myself out. And what got me out was my family.
yeah.
Like my wife was there, my daughter's there, and like one of the most like things that hit home the most was when my wife said, "You shouldn't care what everybody else feels about you because your daughter thinks you're amazing." And that's all that matters. And
Yeah,
I know you have two daughters, two children that you love very, very much. And one of the most important conversations I've had with the Marine Corps, I'm sorry to do this in front of you, dude, but
no,
emotional,
no.
was you and I were sitting at the range. We were doing table two quals. And it was right before you left. And you're like, "Hey, man, yeah, you married?" I was like, yeah, I'm married. He's like, "You have kids?" I was like, "No, not yet, but I have one on the way." He's like, "I'll never forget your face and the smile you had." He said, "It's the best thing in the world, man. It's hands down the best thing in the world. And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that moment with you, and that's why I'm so happy you're here and we're talking, and I'm able to get your story out. And I don't feel my story stacks up to yours, but you're willing to sit down and talk to me and hear me out, and I'm willing to hear you out. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, dude. It's Dylan and Rob, just former
Exactly.
Marine Corps veterans. Just I'm sorry,
Don't be sorry. No, it's it.
but this
It's
is what it's about. Like this is the brotherhood. This right here is the brotherhood. Is being able to get through this, and that's what I want to show everybody.
I agree.
This is what really matters.
I agree with everything you said, and that stigma that you mentioned is highly strong and across any veteran community. I mean, I had a woman, an Army reservist at the VA who was volunteering who made fun of me because I was being medically retired. And I just looked her in the face and was like, hey, you're not worth my time. So I just moved on with my life.
Yeah,
But, uh, you know, my commanding officer didn't even present me my retirement orders. Didn't even present to me. They were downstairs playing volleyball, and I was there waiting. And they said, "Well, we're gonna play volleyball, so you can wait until after we play volleyball, and then we'll get back in camis and do all this stuff." I was like, "Nah, fuck that. I grabbed my stuff and I left, and that was it. I put that command behind me. I put all those people who stabbed me in the back behind me. On the way out, they destroyed my career. My commanding officer gave me the worst fit rep, not only of my career, but of his career. And I was passed over for staff sergeant because of it. And 6 months prior, I was up for meritorious staff sergeant. I was honor graduated at sergeant's course. Like, I did the best that I could in the Marine Corps
yeah,
just to be treated like that on the way out because they thought I was weak. I'd like to see them stand in both of our shoes just for 10 minutes. And that stigma needs to go away, because I remember thinking that way. I remember thinking somebody was hurt or somebody was going through some stuff. Oh, they're weak. They should just be happy. They should just do this. And then when I went through it myself, I was like, oh, shit, man. Like, I need some help.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't do this on my own. Yeah, you cannot do it on your own. That stigma does need to go away. And another thing that you mentioned too, like with the drinking, it only numbs the pain temporarily. And unfortunately, with alcohol and opiates and all this other stuff, something that you said was that you couldn't feel happy. Like you felt like you were just unable to be happy. That was the alcohol inside your brain saying that you can't be happy. You can't be happy unless I'm in there, and that's that alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize the same thing. It was the opiates. My wife and I were always fighting. I didn't want to be around her. I was always trying to avoid her. Any conversation we had, I was like, oh. And, when I got off the opiates and that methadone demon starved itself in my body and I finally started recovering, I fell in love with my wife all over again. And my kids' hugs felt stronger than ever.
Yeah.
Even like Daddy's sick on the couch, don't jump on him. My daughter Kinley runs over, jumps on me, and gives me a big ass hug, and I'm like, I needed that so bad.
Totally worth it.
Totally worth it. And it's those medications and those things inside of you when you self-medicate, or if you're taking prescription opiates, it blocks not only the pain but everything else.
Yeah.
It just shuts you down from who you really are. And I've always been someone who's cared about others, and I've always tried to do my best, no matter what was on my plate, to take care of other people first. And that was something that Serrano taught me, is to always put someone else first. That lesson came when there was a Marine who didn't have $20 for something that we had going on. I don't remember. It was like a going away present, and we needed $20. And I went with Serrano to the ATM, and he pulled his bank receipt out, and he had $20 in his bank account, and he was willing to give it to that Marine. And he's like, Dylan, don't ever forget that. It's always everybody else before yourself. And sometimes you need to just recover to take care of yourself and become healthy again in order to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm on 2 months of leave from my job because I need to get these medications balanced in order to get my brain to stop thinking that it needs the methadone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have cravings. I don't have any withdrawal side effects. My hands don't shake, like none of that. It's gone. But the pain is a whole new different thing.
Yeah.
Because I haven't experienced it in 3 years. So, like, even a jolt with my sciatic nerve, it felt like I was getting electrocuted,
Yeah.
And I can relate to that your back pain. It's horrible.
Yeah. It's the structure of your entire body. And
I was literally just about to say, any way you move, if you sit down, if you do anything, your back is going to hurt.
Yeah.
And there's no comfortable way to do it,
No.
I relate to it, man.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's kind of like what this entire conversation is going to lead to. And that's like, at the end of the day, you can take all the pills in the world, you can drink yourself to death. If all you're doing is delaying that point in time where you say, you know what, that's enough. I'm getting off this shit. I'm gonna start doing the physical thing. I'm gonna do everything I possibly can. If I have to, I'm gonna take some time off work, which is something I did, and something you're doing now to get healthy up here, get your body in a state to where you can function. You have your process, your own processes, your own procedures. You're fully open to your family and your friends, and you have that support system. We're going to get through this. We're all going to get through this together, and that's why, like, as soon as you started, sharing with us, like, I told you, man, I'm behind you 100%. I'm here to talk. I'm here to anything, and sometimes that's all we need is somebody to sit in front of and talk to. And we've been talking for an hour and a half. We could go all day. I know we could, but I'm gonna go and wrap up this episode, and it's been incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
I really appreciate it, dude.
No, the honor is mine. Seriously, thank you for listening to me, and thank you for inviting me. And you nailed it. Communication is key. Being honest with your spouse, being honest with your family and your friends and your community. There's people in my community that I've been so sick that they pick my kid up from school just because they know that I'm sick, and they will watch her for hours. And sharing your story and getting the help that you need to get mentally correct dude, you nailed it. And I'm humbled that you asked me to be here. I really am. Like, what you're doing is a very, very good thing, and it's a very powerful message. And it may be hard for some Marines to understand, especially when they're around that Marine Corps culture of, oh no, F this, F that, I'm tough, blah blah blah
Right.
blah. But the second they separate away from their brothers and they're alone, that's when everything comes back.
Yeah.
And you're
Scary.
doing a good thing, man. I'm seriously honored to be here.
Well, I really appreciate it. I'd like to give you one last opportunity to any suicide guys that happen to catch this. What do you got for them?
Hey guys, if you need help anytime, 518-817-6285. ro.dylan@outlook.com. That's it. Just message me. The amount of support that I have received has been phenomenal. Suicide guys have been messaging me, talking about their lives and their sobriety and how good it is and how much they have their kids and their families back. And just accept the fact that when you're alone, you're not alone.
No, you're
You
never alone.
always have somebody.